This is Mark Gunn Media.
Hit it!
Welcome to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. I'm your host, Mark Gunn. The views expressed on this program are those of the host and guests and not necessarily reflective of anyone or any entity associated with this broadcast. This episode, Giving Him His Roses While He's Here. My tribute to Clarence Avant. I want to personally thank everybody who has subscribed to the podcast, and remember, you can download it at markgunmedia.com, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Google Podcasts, envision-radio.com, or wherever you download your podcasts. I also want to thank those of you that listen from anywhere in the U.S. and around the world. Bonjour to our listeners in France. Guten Tag to those of you listening in Germany. To my friends in Ireland. Dia Huch. Apakabar, Indonesia. Konnichiwa, Japan. To my family in Nigeria. In Leo. Hello to my neighbors to the north in Canada. Hello, Bangladesh. Hola to my friends in Brazil. G'day in Australia. And hello to those of you listening in the UK. We would love to hear from you, and you can reach out to us by going to our website at markgunmedia.com or through envision-radio.com. If you're an advertiser, one of the most important things about getting your message out is actually standing out from the rest of the crowd. If you're listening to this program right now, this is where you'd hear your commercial. As an exclusive sponsor of Gunshots Straight from the Hip, your commercial is professionally produced and gets a longer shelf life based on your needs. Gunshots Straight from the Hip is a unique and compelling program unlike anything else in the marketplace. Episodes are available for download on iTunes, TuneIn, and markgunmedia.com. And depending on how you tailor your message, the potential for new and repeat customers is that much greater. Best of all, it's extremely cost-effective. If you'd like more information on how you can be a sponsor of this broadcast, call Mark Gunn Media Inc. at 502-407-0283. That's 502-407-0283. Or log on to markgunmedia.com. For downloads of this and past episodes and information about all the multimedia services we offer, log on to our website at www.markgunmedia.com. That's markgunmedia.com. The average person may not know the name Clarence Avant, but a lot of us in the media and music industry sure do. I'm doing this particular episode because Mr. Avant has been a mentor to me throughout my radio career. And I'm proud to say that my mentor was just inducted to the 2021 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Ahmet Ertegun, the founder of Atlantic Records and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, was the son of a Turkish diplomat. He created the Atlantic Records label in 1947 with $10,000 borrowed from the family dentist. From a two-room hotel suite in New York, he and his partners brought us rhythm and blues as we know it, discovering and nurturing such talents as Ray Charles, Ruth Brown, Big Joe Turner, Clyde McFadden, and Ben E. King. Over the next 5 decades, the Atlantic label went on to sign some of the greatest legends in music: Aretha Franklin, Otis Redding, John Coltrane, Led Zeppelin, Crosby, Stills and Nash, and the Rolling Stones.
Ahmet was a cat man. I mean, he was a cat that had the feeling for the music.
It's my honor tonight to tell you that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame main exhibition hall will be named after you and be called the Ahmet M. Ertegun Exhibition Hall.
That is the honor that Clarence Avant is being given, with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremonies that will take place in Cleveland on October 30th. If you're into any kind of entertainment, music, TV, movies, sports, chances are that you felt his influence, even if you never knew it. Clarence Avant was born on February 25th, 1931 in a small town in North Carolina. He went to school through his junior years in a one-room classroom before attending James B. Dudley High School in North Carolina. At the age of 16, Mr. Avant decided to move to New Jersey to live with his aunt and cousin.
My mama used to tell me, she said, boy, she said, that hat's on your head, but sometimes your brains don't work. And I had to prove to her that my brains could work. And I education, no. I had to, there were 8 of us, and I was the oldest. Now, Quincy, don't you tell them what I did now. I learned how to survive. And when I left home, I was staying because I had a stepfather, and we certainly didn't get along, and so I was staying with cousins and whatnot. And when I left home, my cousin said to me, "Now, boy, if you leave here, you better not go to jail because we can get you out." Because kids I knew, man, they were in jail on Saturday nights, And so he said, "Now you leave here. We ain't telling you to leave, but if you go to jail, we ain't got no money." And I made up my mind that I wasn't going to jail because nobody didn't pay you. At least on the farm, they paid you a little bit of money. And I decided to leave and hustle. That might be a wrong word for you people, but I learned how to survive. That's the key word in my life, is how do you survive without going to jail and without stealing something from somebody.
That's when his storied career began.
How did I get into the music business? Many years ago, way before your time, I was in Newark, New Jersey. Got my start in the music business really by managing a nightclub in Newark, New Jersey. And we booked certain kind of acts the one that hired me after he and I had some disagreements was a blues singer by the name of Little Woody John. He was from Detroit. He played the club. I guess his biggest record was Fever. Then Peggy Lee took it over and made it into a whole national, a big song around the world. But he was the first one to record it. Back in those days, Afro-American music was not played on many radios except, a few black stations, a few stations that would play some black music. And I guess you have to give guys like Alan Freed a lot of credit because he was probably the most important disc jockey in the East at that time. And of course you had the emergence you had black disc jockeys like Jocko, Georgie Woods, Jack Walker.
Mr. Avant soon found that his list of clients was growing.
From Little Willie John, I started with him. After that, I started managing Jimmy Smith, the jazz organist. After that, we started representing Lalo Schifrin, the composer, Mission Impossible, the Argentine young man who used to play with Dizzy Gillespie. But, my life has been kind of like a whirlwind. In and out, in and out, in and out. But that was the beginning of me in the music business.
In 1967, Mr. Avant helped sign William Mickey Stevenson with MGM, engineering the first joint venture between an African-American artist and a major record company with the incorporation of Venture Records, Inc. into MGM Records in California.
I was in California with Quincy, and I met this gentleman that used to be the head of A&R at Motown. His name was Mickey Stevenson. And he had quit Motown, and I didn't know him. And he introduced himself. And at that time, I was extremely close to MGM Records, MGM Motion Pictures. And Mickey said to me that he wanted to start a label. Now, you have to go back. That was in probably 1966 or 67. And I probably made the first joint venture with any label, especially for an Afro-American. In fact, I know it was. I made a deal for Mickey to start a company called Venture Records with MGM financing it. And so in order for MGM to okay the deal, they said, you're going to have to move to California. I didn't know a damn thing about running a record company, but that was my assignment. Mickey wanted me to be involved. I didn't own any of it. So after 18 months with that, it, like most startups, it never got started. But the bug was there. And when I tell you the bug, I said, well, hell, maybe I should start a record company.
Mr. Avant was known in the business world as a great deal maker. And in 1968, Al Bell enlisted his help to sell Stax Records to Gulf and Western. The deal was finalized for $4.3 million.
So in 1970, I launched Sussex Records.
He also bought KAGB FM radio, one of the first black-owned stations in Los Angeles in 1973. Mr. Avant had realized his passion for the music business and founded Taboo Productions in 1976. In 1987, Mr. Avant helped to promote Michael Jackson's first solo tour, which grossed $125 million. He was then named chairman of the board of Motown Records in 1993, which is when I met him as the music director of what was KACE-FM in Los Angeles. A year later, Mr. Avant worked with a group of other African-American investors to create a $20 million partnership in South Africa called New Age Beverages. New Age teamed up with PepsiCo to build a bottling plant in South Africa, which would be run completely by South Africans. Mr. Avant, along with Quincy Jones, received the Thurgood Marshall Lifetime Achievement Award in 1997. They've been friends for well over 60 years.
Watching him and Quincy tell stories. And what's funny is sometimes they'll tell the story maybe 3 or 4 times now in a row, but they do it in tandem. To hear him talk about the old days and hear Quincy go, "Hey man, I'm telling you right now, man, you know, he's a gangster, man. He's a gangster." And what he meant was gangster in the sense of that he just makes everything happen and for the best.
He was also awarded an honorary doctorate from Morehouse College in 2003 and received the Living Legends Foundation Award in 2007. In 2010, he was inducted into the NAACP Hall of Fame. He has become known as the godfather in the music business because of his willingness to help anybody, especially new people in the industry.
When you talk about godfather, you know, we talk about godfather in the movie sense, but when a person, an African-American man who everyone can call for anything, whether it's advice about what's the next move I should make, career-wise, or things have gone awry and I need someone to talk to and sort of figure things out for me. That takes a lot. Think about your life every day, how much energy it takes just to do your life. You know, just to put your life together, and I want to be successful for my family. And a man who opens his house, heart, and his mind up for you to come to. When I met Mr. Avant, what you want to do, kid? You know, and it was basically, I've seen it all, I've heard it all. I see something special in you, but I don't want you to ruin it. You need to make up your mind on what you really want to do. What is your legacy going to be? Look beyond the first 2 or 3 years of your life, and here I am now. That was when I was almost 30 years ago. Now here I am 52, and he's still fresh.
As a young music director, Mr. Avant was always very gracious and giving. The music director is a gatekeeper of sorts for the program director of a radio station. Before consultants and regional heads, it was the music director's job to listen to and critique new music, then make recommendations to the program director as to which songs should be added to their playlist. When you hold that position in the second largest media market in the country, it comes with a lot of power and access to people you wouldn't ordinarily get to talk to. The typical routine for me back then, and any MD of a radio station can attest to this, was that one day a week, record label executives would meet with me and they'd pitch the new music priorities for their respective labels. I'd slowly gained a reputation for being a tough nut to crack because I'm also a musician and had a little different criteria when it came to judging music. Because of that, every now and then the head of promotion or the label boss himself would get involved. That's where Mr. Avant came in. Now, you tend to build relationships with people at the labels over the years, and if you're smart, you make those relationships last forever. That's just one of the many things I learned from Mr. Avant. Because of that, I'm proud to be able to say that I still have relationships with a majority of the record label executives I met way back when.
But here's a man who you could call him on the phone, not text, get a real voice, get a real response, and give real knowledge. Somebody who remained in the background. Like, you know, he didn't need to be in everybody's face, but he's one of the most integral parts of American history that you could find. I mean, presidents, everyone calling. I do know that he was connected with a lot of influential people. And you know how it was back in that time when he first started out with music, what you had to do and how sometimes how dirty it could be or how different it could be. He was able to navigate and still, like I said, be able to lend a helping hand to people.
Something else I also learned and maintain to this day is that you deal with people honorably and respectfully, because at the end of the day, it's just business. This is why I've never called Mr. Avant by his first name and never will. Another thing I learned from him was having the courage of your convictions. I picked a fight with the record industry that went international back in the 90s. That's a story for another podcast. And I also endangered a lot of relationships. Mr. Avant was among the handful of label heads that supported me throughout that fight. One of the running jokes in the industry was always, well, just exactly what does Clarence Avant do? The answer? Everything. Director Reginald Hudlin explains.
Clarence literally makes things happen. And I'll give you a story which kind of is a perfect summary of him. Like, there's a guy interviewed named Zach Horowitz, and he ran MCA Records.
Right.
But at the time, it was the beginning of his career. He was a little baby lawyer.
Right.
And he told me this story about E.T., the extraterrestrial,
Right.
directed by Steven Spielberg. And he said, it was a very successful film. I go, yes, I know. And then he says, and it was so successful, they did a storybook album that was produced by Quincy Jones, executive produced by Steven Spielberg, narrated by Michael Jackson. The thing is that the album came out on MCA.
Yeah.
But Michael was signed to Sony, but he didn't ask for permission. He just did it.
Right.
So Sony loses their mind. So it's a huge lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this big conference room. All the lawyers from Sony are there. All the lawyers from MCA. Michael Jackson's attorneys, Steven Spielberg's attorneys, Quincy Jones' attorneys. And then there's Clarence Avant.
Yeah.
So Zach leans over to his boss and goes, that's Clarence Avant. Why is he in the room? Who's he represent? And the guy, without blinking, goes, oh, Clarence? He represents everybody.
Through his mentoring, a whole lot of people have become very successful in the music business. And frankly, whatever field of endeavor they choose to pursue.
None of us would be in this industry if it weren't for him, if it weren't for the doors that he not only opened, but at you know, and a lot of times he just took the doors off the hinges, just left it open for us, you know, and he continues to do that so that we don't have to say black, black, black. We can just come in through the merit of like our talent and be recognized, and he got rid of all those, you know, just discriminating moments, you know, but in a meaningful way, you know, like in a really meaningful way. It's everything that he's ever done has had integrity, and that halo effect has just been great for all of us.
Clarence Avant is a man that makes things happen. That will be the one thing you hear about him more often than anything else. Well, that and his sometimes colorful use of language. But he has touched a lot of people in this industry. People like one of my mentors, the late, great Dr. Jerry Bolding, Bill Withers, Quincy Jones, Muhammad Ali from right here in Louisville. You name it, in some way, shape, or form, Clarence Avant has had an influence on that person.
Clarence Avant. Clarence has been known as the Godfather. And the Godfather is what he's been to a lot of us.
Someone just handed me a piece of paper for me to talk about Clarence. That's like taking Dracula to the blood bank. Clarence Avant. I met Clarence about 3 years before electricity started.
Congratulations on your Nobel Peace Prize. This is the Nobel Peace Prize, I'm sure. And if it isn't, you certainly qualify for one because of your accomplishments, but not only your accomplishments, but how you've assisted so many others, including myself, in achieving so many things. And I would have to say that there's probably not one single individual alive who's contributed more to the growth of African American executives.
Clarence Avant is a man that I met, and I met him because of Gladys Knight and the Pips.
Clarence Avant, mentor, consultant, friend, debater. I guess I could just go on and on and on about Clarence Avant and what he has meant to my life and to my career.
Clarence is a guy who, you know, he kind of stays behind the scenes and likes to work behind the scenes and do his things without being involved and being in the spotlight.
Mr. Avant has always been a model of consistency and persistence. There aren't too many people in this industry that would ever say no to him.
His basic criteria is very simple: helping black people and making sure that the people he helps help black people. And with that kind of combination, it's hard to go wrong.
I don't know if you guys know it, but Clarence also advises a lot of non-African American executives, but he doesn't really want you to know about that because he's such a proud black man. But Clarence, your contributions are unequaled in our industry.
I remember when Clarence first connected with me and I was in radio in New York, and he gave me some advice that I never forgot. What he said was, Jerry, once you're sure that you're right, don't change your mind. I haven't, he hasn't. And for those many years, Clarence has helped tremendously everybody in the radio and music industry whose lives he's touched.
The contributions, Clarence, you've made to this industry, you are well aware of it because it comes from the bottom, the deepest part of your soul, you know that, both from behind the front lines and behind the lines. You are there for everybody. I've got three or four people lined up to come and borrow some money from you. Oprah's coming to borrow some money from you. Warren Buffett and that other billionaire's coming over. You are the most generous, giving human being that I've ever met in my life, Clarence.
Clarence is sort of the Renaissance guy. He knows so much. He's affected so many lives. He's been in the music industry, one of the icons and probably one of the great guiding forces for so many executives and artists and musicians and writers.
Your dedication to artist rights and human rights is second to none, and it's been a real inspiration to me and to the entire industry, Clarence. I consider you my advisor, my mentor, and friend.
All I can say is if God found a better friend for anybody in the world, I feel so blessed, you know. God must have kept him for himself, you know. I treasure you as I do my own life, man, and I love you from the bottom of my heart. And nobody deserves this award more than you do. And I don't want to hear no funny talk. I love you.
There's a brilliant documentary on Netflix that takes an in-depth look at the life of Clarence Avant. It's called The Black Godfather. I highly recommend you checking it out.
His name kept coming up. Who is this guy that I keep hearing about?
He wasn't there, but he was right there.
The record business, Hollywood, civil rights, anything that had to do with the rights of people.
That told you everything you needed to know about him.
He was fearless, man. Absolutely fearless.
We needed to know him because he was the gatekeeper.
He knew everyone.
Everybody.
Oh, man, he was too fly. One day after another, he became a powerhouse.
There's the power that needs the spotlight, but there's also the power behind the scenes.
The guy's a rock in every way.
Agent, manager, orchestrator. This mysterious figure everybody respected.
You only find one of those people.
I'm like, how was this guy doing it?
Sometimes I say to myself, how in the did I get involved in all this? I don't let nothing get in my way about anything that I want to do.
Clarence was an African-American man in Hollywood, defying what Hollywood was supposed to be.
Black people are going to move forward. No matter what business he was in, he never wavered from his purpose.
Seeing that things were fair.
He said, would you like any help putting MCA into the black music business? I said, yes. He says, well, that's good, because I'm going to tell you what to do anyway.
I would hear about people that were in very serious situations when it came to life. And they would say, the only person that can help you with this is Clarence Avant.
Clarence is the bridge from a time where there was no opportunity to a time where doors began to open.
My brother! He understands the bigger that we are together, the bigger we will be as a culture. He told me,
Henry Aaron would not be Henry Aaron if not for Clarence Avant.
That I ought not to let you just walk on me.
The message that I received from Clarence was just think about those kids that's looking up to me.
The bill is good getting used. Just keep on.
The person that's responsible for your transition, that's the key to changing your life.
Till you use me up.
He became that mentor for us all. He became that godfather.
Until you use me up.
Remember the first time someone ever said, you're the godfather?
Well, people call me that. People can call me anything. People have called me a son of a bitch, so what?
Once again, I strongly urge you to check out the documentary, The Black Godfather. It's available on Netflix. As you've heard over the last half hour or so, Clarence Avant is many things to many people. He is our mentor. He's our big brother. He's our counsel. He's also the one that'll give us a kick in the ass when we need it. Personally speaking, I've been in radio going on 40 years now and have had the opportunity to work in some major markets. But it wasn't until I got to Los Angeles, and it wasn't until I met Clarence Avant, that things really changed for me. I didn't know it back then, but the things that I learned by sitting up under his learning tree would carry me forward into everything else that I'm doing now. So once again, I am honored and I am proud to celebrate my friend, my mentor, Clarence Avant, as he gets inducted into the 2021 class of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Mr. Avant, you may never hear this podcast, but I just have to say with the most humility and heartfelt gratitude, thank you. Thank you for the contributions you've made to my professional life, and thank you for the contributions you've made to African American culture. The honor you'll receive on the 30th is a small token of what you truly deserve. You've been listening to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. The views expressed are those of the host and guests and not reflective of any business entity or anyone associated with this broadcast. If you have any comments or want more information on how to be a sponsor, log on to our website at markgunmedia.com or call us at 502-407-0283. That's 502-407-0283. Thank you for listening. Mark Gun Media. No hype, no hoopla, just damn good work.